Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here today. As both of you know, the ag economy is going through a bit of a slump, rivaled only by the farm crisis that we had in the 1980s. And while we know that on average farm balance sheets are stronger than they were in the 80s, decreasing land prices can change that in a hurry. I'm especially concerned for some of the younger and smaller farmers who got their start in the past decade, veterans and other beginning farmers who have only known those good times of high commodity prices, and they haven't had a chance to pay off debt and build equity. I hear that all the time when I'm out on my 99 county tour, as you would know, Mr. Smith. So I'd like to start with you, Mr. Smith. If you are confirmed to the FCA board, what do you believe must be done to ensure that young and beginning farmers are receiving the support they need to avoid going under?
It's a frequent question that I've gotten in just about every Senate office that we've visited is how do we get young farmers involved? And as a lender, how do we stay secure and reliable and help mitigate that risk? One of the things I referred to a little earlier and would refer to again is partnerships with entities that are encouraging beginning farmers, FSA, for instance, that minimize capital requirements, that have lower interest rates, are ways of possibly farm credit partnering with other entities to make those loans and try to mitigate the risk at the same time. As you know, Iowa's been has got some very good programs for beginning farmers, offering subsidies to owners that cooperate with renting land to beginning farmers, and also selling land to beginning farmers if it's sold on a contract anyway. So I think from the standpoint of farm credit, I think my role would be encouraging using additional programs to help mitigate risk, to help that risk with lower interest rates. But one thing, Senator Ernst, that does scare me is, and again, not to be repetitive, but it's the high cost of capital, the land, the breeding livestock, the machinery that does worry me that we did not have in the 80s. I mean, on $30,000 financed really my beginning machinery package to farm 500 acres. Today, you can ask my son, because that's his department, but I think it barely financed our GPS equipment.
Right.
So the huge disparity in the amount of capital that's required today, and those beginning, just because you say yes to that loan doesn't mean it might be good for that young borrower. Diversification, and we talked in Senator Stabenow's office a lot about this, is diversification, small loans, getting people started in a small way, I think should be encouraged, and maybe as one answer to help mitigate that risk. Making $10,000 loans, $20,000, $15,000 loans of getting people started maybe is better than that big loan that may be more efficient. But again, is it really serving the needs of those young farmers?
That's a really great point. And in your testimony, you mentioned the economic prosperity of farming communities in 2006 to 2013, that time frame, and the spending habits it led to that may no longer be supportable. How concerned are you that too many farmers are over-leveraged if interest rates continue to rise?
Very concerned. Very concerned. Even a minimal 2-point rise in interest rates would significantly impact operating budgets. Again, getting back to the high cost of capital that we're working with today. And again, getting back to the diversification part. Back in my parents' generation, pigs, cattle, chickens, that was diversity on farms that you and I grew up with. Today I say an intelligent working wife is the best diversification, hopefully with insurance benefits, right? The point being, and you can ask Fozanne and I know you have, because we've lived at that, is taking care of those family living expenses and not having to serve those in addition to paying your loan obligations. So a lot of counseling. I think the opportunity in farm credit with beginning farmers would be a lot of counseling on different ideas to survive, not just making the loan.
I appreciate that, and I do think that is essential, the counseling aspect of that. We're laughing about having a spouse that maybe works outside of the home, but that is truly how many of our farm families are able to survive, especially with the crisis that we're seeing with health insurance right now, especially in Iowa. So
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Smith, so much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Vaden, for being here as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.